Sharice's Big Voice. A Native Kid Becomes a Congresswoman. Written by U.S. Congresswoman Sharice Davids herself, with Nancy K. Makes. Illustrated by Joshua Mangeshig, Pawis-Steckley. Sharice's Big Voice. A Native Kid Becomes a Congresswoman. This is a picture of me and my mom the night I was elected to Congress. When I see this, I think how amazing it is that I won. I think how amazing it is that I even tried to win. When I was young, I never thought I'd be in Congress. And I never thought I'd be one of the first Native American women in Congress. During the race, I heard a lot from doubters. They thought that I couldn't win based on what I look like, who I love, and where I started. But here's the thing. Everyone's path has obstacles, some more than others, and everyone's faced challenges and people who doubt them. Sometimes we even doubt ourselves. Everyone's path looks a little different. So let me tell you a little bit about mine. Go Sharice, go Sharice, go Sharice, go Sharice. When I was young, I liked to talk like a lot. And I still like to talk a lot. I talk to my family, my friends, and my friends' families. I talk to neighbors and people shopping in the store, people working in the store. I wanted to know things about people, like how often did they move? And had they ever seen martial artist Bruce Lee kick through a wall? Also, did they hate onions in their pizza like me? My mom likes to talk too. Watching her, I saw how a good conversation can make people happy. You start as strangers, but then you share ideas and learn about each other. Maybe you learn that they've moved 4 times, that they love Bruce Lee, and that unlike me, they don't care if their pizza comes with onions. I still care, like a lot. No onions for me. Sometimes I got in trouble for talking a bit too much. Well, maybe a little bit more than sometimes. My teacher even moved me by her desk, but that didn't stop me. Sharice, she finally said, move out to the hall until you finish your work. You can't talk out there. But she was wrong. I just talked to whoever passed by. One day, a boy in my class grew upset, so he bolted out of the classroom. Sharice, my teacher said, can you get him to come back? When I found him outside, I did what I always did. I started talking, and then he started talking, and I listened. That was all my friend needed, and he went back to class. I was getting better at listening. I learned that listening gives people room to be themselves, to feel angry or happy or sad. I discovered that the best way to learn about people is to listen to them. My friends at school were confused about me because I looked different from them. They always asked, what are you, Sharice? One day I asked my mom, what am I, Mommy? You are Native American, my mom said. After she told me that, uh, after she told me that, what are you, isn't a nice question to ask people. We are members of the Ho Chunk Nation, she said. I learned my mom was removed from her family and told to pretend she wasn't Ho Chunk. Our nation is mostly in Wisconsin, where my aunts and cousins live. We're related to the Winnebago tribe in Nebraska. We used to be all one people, but long ago, the U.S. government forced tribes to move away from their homelands. I also learned that we call ourselves the people of the big voice, which obviously fits me well. My big voice came in handy every time I started a new school. My mom was in the army for 20 years, so we moved back and forth between Germany, Kansas, and Missouri. At every school, I made friends by talking and listening. I knew a good conversation could break down a wall, just like Bruce Lee. Hey, hi. In Germany, a soldier taught me martial arts for free. I wanted to keep taking lessons when we returned home, but my mom couldn't afford them. So instead, I watch Bruce Lee movies all the time. He could do a roundhouse kick, a palm strike, and a flying armbar. I ran around punching and kicking and trying to copy him. While my mom was being strong and fierce at work, I was strong and fierce at home. When I was 13, I went to my mom's work for a special ceremony. She had earned a promotion to a higher level in the Army, Sergeant First Class. My mom asked me to pin the special sergeant patch on her uniform. I watched her stand at attention in her Army fatigues and American flag behind her. I felt so proud. It took years for her to earn that promotion, and I knew how hard she had worked. And I knew I wanted to be like her when I grew up, focused and fierce, confident and kind, a person who serves others. I was going to be just like my mom. I learned how to work hard by watching my mom. I sold newspaper subscriptions and worked in a pizza restaurant. No onions on mine, please. Later, I paid for college by working at a fast food restaurant, making burgers, cleaning bathrooms, and calming upset customers. I learned you can't always fix someone's complaint. Like when you're out of mustard, you're kind of out of mustard, but you can listen. And when you can do something, you make them feel better. Like maybe they can get a free ice cream. In college, I used part of each paycheck for martial arts classes so I could finally learn to fight like Bruce Lee. I learned jiu-jitsu, taekwondo, capoeira. I landed a punch and defended against a palm strike. But more importantly, I learned when I work hard at something, I get better at it, even if I can't see it right away. I trained every day for years, and finally, I was ready for my first mixed martial arts fight. I was nervous, but I knew I was prepared. Standing in the ring, I thought about my training, all those hours practicing, and then, bring, bring, the bell rang. We met in the middle of the ring, and I pounced on my opponent. In less than a minute, I won my first fight with my favorite move, a triangle hold. The crowd cheered. Go Sharice, go Sharice, go Sharice, go Sharice. With my arm raised high, I realized it felt good to win, but it felt even better knowing I had won because I'd worked so hard. You know how that feels, right? It feels awesome. At the same time I was fighting in the ring, I started the journey with a different kind of battle. I decided to enroll in law school so I could work to make U.S. laws more just and fair. I didn't know anyone who was both Native American and an attorney. I didn't even know any attorneys, but martial arts taught me not to be afraid of new challenges. A friend told me about a program for Native Americans preparing to be lawyers, so I signed up. It was the first time in my life I sat in a classroom surrounded by Native people. I, it felt so powerful. No one in that room asked me, Cherise, what are you? They knew that we were together. Once I had my law degree, I worked for a big law firm, but it didn't feel quite right. It didn't feel like my path. So I moved to a reservation in South Dakota. I saw that my native friends there didn't have the kind of opportunity that I had in Kansas. So I used my legal skills to help them start businesses. I learned a lot living there, and my life is better for it. Working with Native American tribes, I saw that the people who make up the American government don't always see how the laws they make impact the people they represent. I wanted to change that, so I went to work in the White House. There, I saw how laws were made, but I didn't see people who looked like my family. I didn't see people who grown up like me. What if that changed? I wondered. What if everyone's voice was heard by the people making our laws? That was when I had a bold, brave idea that would need my big voice, my ability to listen, and my ability to take a punch. Turns out a lot of punches. Can you guess what I'm talking about? I decided to run for Congress. Our government needed different voices and more people who would listen. I had doubters. Those are people who thought I couldn't win, or they didn't even think I should run. But do you think I listened to them? No way. In the beginning, the campaign team was small enough to fit around a kitchen table. But as we walked through neighborhoods, more people joined us. Our campaign made room for everyone. We listened to everyone. People who couldn't afford to see a doctor, moms who couldn't, moms whose job didn't pay enough to give their kids more opportunities, every child who'd ever been asked, "What are you?" In our campaign, we listened to every voice, every one. The night of the election, I hoped we would win. I knew how hard everyone had worked on the campaign, and I knew how important it was for their voices to be heard. I watched the election results on a small TV room with my best friend, my family, my campaign team, and my partner. We laughed and talked and ate macaroni and cheese. When the results came in, I'd won, and I'd won by a lot. Sharice Davids wins the congressional seat. I walked out of the small room into a ballroom and saw the smiling faces of all the people who had helped on the campaign. As they cheered and clapped, "Go Sharice, go Sharice." I climbed onto the stage with my mom and we lifted our arms. We did it. I felt like everyone, every voice was rising up with me. Growing up, I never would have guessed my path would lead to Congress. I didn't even know I would be the first Native American woman in Congress and the first lesbian representative from Kansas. Everyone's path is different, and wherever yours takes you, maybe the lessons I learned can help. Be open to challenges, work hard, and you'll learn a lot. Listen to people, but not the doubters, and use your big voice to fight for your beliefs. Always remember, you deserve to be seen and heard. This is a note from the author, Sharice Davids. I hope you take a moment to read it and understand why she wrote this story. There's also a note from the illustrator or the artist, and I think it's important that you read that note too to understand some of the symbols that are in this book and also why she wanted to be a part of this project. This page talks about the Ho-Chunk Nation. It's really important that you read about the Ho-Chunk Nation so that you understand who they are, that they are still here, and that they are the people with a big voice. The end.